This program will provide you with some specific techniques to use in your classroom to help improve literacy. I'll be addressing several important components of the literacy process, from beginning reading to working with more advanced readers. Before I talk about the strategies I'd like you to try in your classrooms, I want to review the process of reading with you. I'll begin with emergent literacy. Emergent literacy is the first stage of reading development and lasts from birth to approximately 5 years of age. At this stage, children learn from direct contact with physical manipulation, and they can use an intuitive kind of logic to form concrete concepts. They can draw conclusions based on perceptions, but they have difficulty putting them into words. Toward the end of this stage, usually at about the kindergarten level, children may be able to read signs and labels, and they may scribble, make letter-like forms, or even use invented spelling. It's at this time when phonemic awareness is extremely important. Phonemic awareness is the understanding that speech is made up of a series of individual sounds, or phonemes. It's the ability to hear the sounds in words and then to orally manipulate these sounds. Phonemic awareness is not synonymous with phonics, and it does not involve the actual reading of words. But it is the foundation for later phonics instruction because it helps to develop the sound-symbol relationship necessary for reading. It is taught primarily through oral wordplay, through rhymes, chants, poems, and predictable stories. Children are active constructors of literacy. In other words, literacy emerges as children experience the language arts naturally. They learn a great deal by hearing stories read aloud, attempting to read signs, labels, and storybooks, talking with parents and peers, watching parents read and write, and experimenting with writing and reading materials. Research has shown that if children have a strong phonemic awareness background, they will have a greater chance of success in learning to read. There are 5 components of phonemic awareness that need to be taught. The first is the recognition that words have parts and are made up of more than one sound. Children need to recognize that many words have syllable breaks. This can easily be accomplished by clapping out the number of sound units in a word. For example, cat has 1 clap, doggy 2 claps, elephant has 3 claps. All this is done orally. Through this type of activity, children should be able to determine that a word with more letters probably has more claps or syllables. The second component of phonemic awareness is the ability to recite and recognize rhymes. This is an extremely valuable tool in helping children learn to read. Rhymes help children understand that clusters of letters, such as word families, can represent the same sound in different words. Nursery rhymes, jump rope chants, and rhyming stories are excellent ways to reinforce this concept. Segmentation is the third component of phonemic awareness. Segmentation is the slow articulation of words so that children can hear the individual sounds that make up a word. For example, cat is comprised of the 3 sounds or phonemes k, a, t. The next component of phonemic awareness is blending. This is the opposite of segmentation. In order to use phonics in reading, children need to know how to blend individual sounds together to make a whole word. So, now they need to be able to blend the sounds that they hear in cat, k, a, t, to become cat. This builds upon their ability to rhyme and pronounce the sounds of a word together. Word family words, or words that have onsets, which are the beginning consonant, and rhymes, the vowel or consonant pattern that follows it, are ideal for blending activities. For example, children quickly understand the process of blending when working with words like p-at, or k-at, or ch-et, or p-et. The last component of phonemic awareness is manipulation. Children need to be given opportunities to play with words. They manipulate sounds by rearranging letters in words, deleting or adding sounds, and by substituting sounds to make new words. This is the ability to go from one sound to another orally. Phonemic awareness skills should not be taught solely in isolated drills, but rather should be integrated into your language arts curriculum. Teach the skills in a functional fashion and for as long as your students need it. Instruction in phonemic awareness should also be a continuing feature of instruction in phonics. But remember, all of the instruction should involve oral wordplay. Once students have a good grasp on the sounds the letters make, they're ready to begin phonic instruction. Phonics is an organized system where letter-sound correspondences are directly taught. Children need to learn to decode words instantly and effortlessly. Effective phonics instruction is explicit, making sure children understand the key points, and systematic. It builds gradually from basic elements to more complex patterns. There is a recognized order in which the letter-sound relationship should be taught. Single consonants in the initial positions of words should be taught first. Generally, these consonants are highly regular and make one sound. However, there are a few exceptions like the letters C and G and S. Short vowels should be taught next so that consonant-vowel-consonant or CVC pattern words can be taught and children can begin actual reading. Long vowels are next and are fairly easy for students to learn because they say the name of the letter. For example, the long A says A. Consonant blends, where two letters are blended together, such as B and L, making the blend bl, are the next to be taught. These can be added to the vowel and final consonant to make more new words. Consonant digraphs are two letters which make one unique sound, unlike that of either of the two individual letters. For example, SH does not say s, h, rather it says sh, a unique sound. The teaching of phonics should not be taught through boring drills. It requires much repetition, but should be taught in the context of a story where they can see the practical application of what they are learning. Now, as a teacher, you know that not all words are decodable. Words like you and once and were and even the cannot be sounded out or decoded by a young child. Because they have irregular spellings and often need to be memorized visually, they have been called sight words. Basic sight words tend to be abstract words, words for which you cannot have a picture to help with the understanding and recognition. Other sight words refer to real things, but are ones which do not have regular spellings. Today there are a number of sight word and high-frequency word lists. These words are all taken from frequency counts of children's literature and are comprised of words which children encounter frequently in their reading. It seems ironic that the words that are most frequently used have the most irregular spellings. For example, the word the occurs about every 10th word in children's texts. These are words that play a basic role in English language structure. They cement the nouns and the verbs and the adjectives together and are extremely important in promoting both comprehension and fluency. One list of 600 words account for 65% of all written text. The first 100 words alone account for 50% of all written text. Another high-frequency word list has been developed by Edward Dolch. He includes 220 words, which he has broken down into the easier 110 words and the harder 110 words. Jerry Johns has revised the Dolch list and has organized the words by reader levels. Another popular list by Zeno, Ivans, Millard, and DeVury rank orders the 300 most common words. According to Richard Allington and Patricia Cunningham, a central objective in vocabulary instruction is to develop high-speed, automatic recognition of words that occur over and over again in printed text. So how can we teach sight words? First, remember that many repetitions of the word may be necessary before the word becomes a part of the student's sight vocabulary. Using word banks in both classroom and personal word walls are important to help students recognize and learn sight words. A personal word wall can be made from a manila folder with squares blocked off for each letter of the alphabet, and students can write the words they personally need to know. The most effective way to build a high-frequency vocabulary is to provide practice reading those words. Predictable books, caption books, and just lots of easy reading can help children become comfortable reading those words. Find books that are at the child's independent reading level. books he or she can read easily without help from a teacher or parent, and that are brief and well illustrated to help reinforce sight words. It is very important that children learn to recognize high-frequency words rapidly and automatically. If a child gets stuck on these words and tries to laboriously sound them out, they'll have a hard time comprehending the material that they're attempting to read. Automatic recognition of high-frequency words increases interest in reading, eliminates the word-by-word reading, and provides students the freedom to focus on the construction of meaning. Research on vocabulary instruction reveals that most vocabulary is learned indirectly when students hear and see words used in different contexts. For example, through conversations with adults, through being read to, and through their own reading. Some vocabulary, however, must be learned directly. Direct vocabulary instruction helps with reading comprehension as they work with difficult words that are not a part of their everyday experiences. Just for a minute, think about what you do when you come across a word you don't know. You'll probably say that you look it up in the dictionary, or that you look at the structure of the word and try to figure it out. Some of you might say that you use the context to determine the meaning, and others might say that you just skip it altogether. All of these are also approaches to teaching vocabulary, except skipping the word. However, they are not in the order of teaching and learning efficiency. Research has shown that using context clues is the most efficient way to learn new vocabulary. Context clues include picture clues at the kindergarten and first grade level, and sentence context clues in grades 2 and above. Many children don't know how to use context clues effectively to help construct meaning. They must be shown how to use the words and sentences that surround the unknown word. A high percentage of the time, definitions or other usable context clues are provided in the text, often in the phrase or sentence adjacent to the unknown word. The next most efficient way to learn new vocabulary words is by structurally analyzing the word, looking at the root of the word, the prefix, and the suffix. Structural analysis skills can allow students to focus on the larger units of letter patterns within words. Instruction in structural analysis should be more conceptual than mechanical and isolated. In other words, children should not memorize lists of prefixes and suffixes, but rather they should build on their own knowledge of familiar words and apply that knowledge to the unknown word. Using the dictionary is the least efficient way to learn a new word, but when all else fails, the dictionary should be used. Children need to know where to find the words in the dictionary, using alphabetical order, and they need to know how to find the best fit for the word. Sometimes there will be several definitions, as well as synonyms and antonyms for a word. Students need to be given practice in finding the definition that makes the most sense. Learning to read and pronounce the words leads us to comprehension, the main purpose of reading. Reading comprehension can be divided into two types, narrative and expository or informational. Narrative text is writing that tells a story. Children's picture books, fairy tales, short stories, novels, fables, and myths and legends are all examples of narrative text. Most children have developed some sense of what makes up a story by the time they enter kindergarten or first grade. This story sense, sometimes called story grammar, has been developed through story reading and story listening with parents, teachers, or siblings. Children become aware that characters interact with one another, and they have a general sense that a story plot will lead to some outcome or resolution. A story grammar is a series of rules designed to show how the parts of a story are interrelated. Almost all narrative stories follow these rules. So, once children learn the components of story grammar, they can use the structure to help them comprehend all other narrative stories. To help build this story sense or story grammar, teachers can ask the following questions. When and where does the story take place? Who are the characters? What problem does the main character face? What does the main character do about the problem? Or what happens to the main character as a result of the problem? How is the problem solved? These questions will help students create an understanding of action-oriented narratives. Students can also fill in a variety of generic guide sheets to reinforce story structure. Story maps are effective because they require students to read actively to complete the maps and also require self-monitoring. One of the best ways to develop both comprehension and the awareness of text structure is retelling. Retelling is the process of telling a story that one has read or heard. Retelling is used to check comprehension and gain insight into a student's reading processes. This technique has been proven to be very effective in improving comprehension and providing a sense of text structure for both average and struggling readers. Another strategy which fosters comprehension is guided reading. Guided reading is an instructional framework within which the teacher supplies whatever help or guidance students need to read a story successfully. This technique enables children to practice strategies with their teacher's support and leads to independent silent reading. The amount of guidance provided varies depending on students' abilities and the complexity of the selection being read. It also helps students focus attention on certain ideas as they read. Teachers can help students think about manipulating the ideas and concepts in the material in a way that will help them better comprehend and enjoy the material. Expository or informational text is writing that is designed to explain or provide information. Writing that informs includes essays, textbook chapters, editorials, articles, reports, and manuals. Expository text is generally harder to read and comprehend than narrative because there is no story grammar to provide the reader with the overall organization. Expository text requires a more advanced type of thinking than reading narrative text. Students need to see interactions between facts and ideas. One key to comprehending expository text is to understand the way the author has organized his or her ideas. Knowledge of this structure helps students focus attention on individual ideas and is a framework to aid in retention of information. Types of expository text structure include cause and effect, comparison and contrast, time order, and problem solution. To help comprehend expository text, students can ask themselves the following questions. What or who is the text or chapter about? Where do the events take place? When did the action or events take place? How does what I have read relate to what I already know about the topic or events? After answering those questions, students can help to clarify their comprehension of the material by recording information on an outline or graphic organizer, like the one you are seeing on the screen now. We've talked about both narrative and expository texts and how we can help students comprehend both types. However, we must remember that in order to promote a full range of thinking and comprehension, we need to provide a mix of both narrative and expository text for our children. Let me now address writing. Donald Graves, a noted educator, states that writing is a social act. Children learn to write by mimicking the habits and strategies of real writers. Teachers play a valuable role in this process. By modeling good writing habits, we show students that writing is an important skill that requires time and attention. Children begin to scribble between the ages of 18 months and 2 years. They can hold a pencil and have developed a certain amount of coordination and control. They usually combine drawing and writing to express a message. At about age 3, writing may begin to acquire characteristics of print because children have begun to notice their visual features of print, its linearity, its horizontal orientation, and the arrangement of letter-like forms. Finally, between the ages of 4 and 7, children understand the match between the letters and their sounds. This is the alphabetic principle, which is a strong component of emergent literacy. There are 5 stages to the writing process: pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. Let me talk about each step. The first step is pre-writing. This is the time for students to select a topic, consider their content, and decide what form their writing will take. Graphic organizers are perfect vehicles for pre-writing. A step organizer is a good way to plan a piece in which students explain how to make or do something. A star organizer helps students organize their ideas when they want to tell about or describe something or someone. I'll be sharing these with you later in the program. Drafting is the next step in the process. At this time, writers get their words on paper. Drafts are not finished pieces and can be messy with markouts, notes, or arrows to show how ideas might be moved to other locations. The next step is revising. Many writers revise as they draft, but young children need to be taught this as a separate step. The revision step deals with the content of the written piece, and peers can also get involved in the process. However, at the second and third grade levels, students are not often critical revisionists, but rather they say the paper they read was good or funny or nice. Editing is the fourth step in the writing process. This is the final chance to make changes focusing on mechanics such as punctuation or spelling. The final stage in the writing process is publishing. This is a formal way of sharing. Published work can be stapled pages, a bound class book, handwritten or typed on a computer. For young children, often a piece of writing is shared with the class in an author's chair. The idea is that someone else gets to read or listen to what the author has so painstakingly written. At the early levels, pre-writing is often comprised of a picture about which the child will write. Revising and editing are kept to a minimum, and often the first draft is the one that is published. This, however, doesn't mean that children should not be exposed to the stages of the writing process. There are 4 writing strategies which can be used to help beginning writers. These are modeled writing, shared writing, guided writing, and independent writing. First, let's look at modeled writing. In kindergarten and first grade, teachers need to spend a great deal of time modeling writing to help provide motivation to write, to provide an expert writing model, and to provide an insight into the writing process. A good practice is to write aloud, or talk about your thoughts, options, and decisions as they naturally occur when you write. This is also a powerful tool for students who are learning to write in a second language, because the teacher gives children the opportunity to observe the writer's thinking and actions. When teachers write with their students, children absorb steps in the writing process as an interactive, non-linear process. They recognize that it sometimes takes more than one draft to clearly communicate to an audience, and that when writers make mistakes, those mistakes are corrected by revising and editing. In shared writing, the teacher and the student work together to create a piece of writing. The teacher writes for the children, modeling the process to organize their writing, and then displays the final product. The writing is shared, and the meanings, choices of words, and topics are discussed, negotiated, and decided jointly by the students and the teachers. It is the teacher's role to create an environment where all children can contribute to a piece of writing and where open conversations occur. Guided writing allows the teacher to be a facilitator. Guided writing usually occurs during the drafting stage of the writing process. At this time, teachers can help students choose their topics, sequence information, help determine the focus of the writing, and show students how to add or delete information. The teacher can also give specific feedback about structural or language elements required for better writing. Finally, let's talk about independent writing. This is the opportunity for children to practice the writing strategies they have learned. They have a chance to develop their sense of organization and the conventions of writing. In early grades, independent writing may only be a sentence or two, or it may be much more. In kindergarten or even first grade, children should be encouraged to write words as they sound. This is sometimes called temporary spelling and allows children to get their thoughts down on paper without worrying about the correct spelling. As teachers, we need to nurture writing, encourage it, and give it time, space, and freedom to develop. But most importantly, we need to provide fluent models of writing so that children can see what good writers do. Informal writing is generally not graded and usually takes the form of journals or learning logs. Journal writing lets children wonder, ruminate, work through difficult ideas, and record their thinking. A number of different types of logs or journals are commonly used by teachers. Learning logs help students keep a written record of learning activity that is personal and informal. They clarify thoughts and feelings about the content subject being studied. Much learning log writing comes from prompts that teachers provide before, during, or after learning events. A dialogue journal is a two-way communication between teacher and student and is a great medium for second language learners. Another good tool for beginning readers and writers is language experience writing. With language experience, students record what they understand about the material under study in their own words and language. Students who are not yet comfortable writing can dictate their ideas while the teacher writes down exactly what the student says with no editorial changes. Quick writes help students focus on new topics. For a quick write, students write about a topic for 3 to 5 minutes. They'll often say, "I don't know what to write about," but it usually doesn't take long for students to write something on the paper. Quick writes are useful tools to diagnose students' backgrounds about a topic before introducing a new subject. For example, you could ask students to write down all they know about tsunamis or tidal waves before they begin reading the novel The Wave. It is important for children to experience both types of writing, informal and formal, as they develop and refine their writing skills. Students' growing awareness of their own power as writers is evident as they are given a variety of opportunities to express themselves. I've just given you a quick overview about the process of reading. As we progress through this course, the segments that follow will give you additional insight that will help you in your efforts to teach reading. You and I will be sharing some specific strategies and activities to help everyone in the course to become an even better teacher of literacy.